because a lot of these veterans haven't told their stories. Very often we see a World War II veteran, World War II was over almost 70 years ago, tell their stories for the first time. So it's a great experience to have these stories available not just to the community, but also to the veterans' families. And it becomes another chapter in a family's history that may go vacant if that veteran never tells that story.
I wasn't expecting to go in there and connect with my veteran. I was expecting to go in, listen to the story, write it, finish it, hooray, I'm done. But I really got to know Shell as a man, and he's a wonderful human being. And I absolutely did not expect that out of this project. And it was my first experience of this, and it's just continued to repay itself over and over and over again in my years.
In many of these instances, stories or things about stories come out that nobody's ever heard before. And my wife was there listening, and so she got a little bit of a different perspective.
When he started telling the story, my student was taking notes. And then she just reached a point where the pencil just kind of dropped out of her hand and her jaw kind of dropped open. And, that was kind of it for her writing.
And you don't really understand until you have that deep connection with someone or talk or dialogue with someone. So you have a really incredible sense of appreciation that you never had before.
Brought back a lot of memories, some good, some bad. But it was very good for me, I think, and for the student. It established a good bond.
Definitely. They are probably the most inspiring aspect of my life.
You get a whole different view of the world, and it's just an experience that nothing compares to.
That has a huge impact for veterans, to know that, their time they served wasn't something that was wasted, but it was something that served a purpose, that made our country what it is, and somebody cares enough to talk to them and find out about that. And so I think that has a huge impact for the veterans that our kids talk to.
It's written, it's something you'd see. It will be put in a book, which of course I haven't seen yet, but I really look forward to seeing, because that gives it another prominence in not only my life, but maybe in the life of someone else.
I remember when I signed the books. Everybody came up, and of course they wanted you to sign it, and it was an honor to be able to sign it, and they wanted that. But I think that the thing that I remember the most was them telling me stories of themselves either being in the service, or their father was in the service, or a brother was in the service.
Her brother has just returned from his third tour as a Marine, and he's withdrawn. He's not involved. He's suffering clearly from PTSD, and I believe that if you talk these things through in an environment like Barbara Head sets up, that will also even help our soldiers today that are trying to deal with the horrors of war that they've experienced.
We have a little bit over 2 million World War II veterans left with us, and we lose them at the rate of about 700 to 800 every day. And if we don't capture those stories now, we never will.
We all have different pasts, we all have different perspectives, viewpoints. And this is just one facet of it, of a very multifaceted past. And the more veterans that we can bring in, and the more veterans that we can relate to and build relationships, the more in which this past can really show its full color and story.
Back in Washington, D.C., when we have educators visit, I take some of the books that have been created by Cactus Shadows High School and hold them up to them and say, why don't you try to do this? Because this is actually the very best that can be done in terms of the Veterans History Project.
It's important to soldiers, not only that have served today, but are serving in the past and will serve in the future.